Good afternoon, everybody. This afternoon's proceedings, like this morning's, are being transmitted, but only after a 10-minute delay. Those with mobile telephones may use them to report to the outside world what they've heard, but only 10 minutes after the event that they're reporting about has elapsed. They may not be used for recording or photography. Mr. Barr.
Thank you, sir. Could we go, please, to your tab B45, 749473? Thank you. This is a document which records the fact that you went to Northern Ireland between the 9th and the 15th of August 1995. If we look at the text in the middle of the gist. Witness disturbances at both venues, that being Londonderry and West Belfast, as part of an informal community anarchist delegation from the Colin Roach Centre in Stoke Newington. The officer mixed freely with the provisional IRA. Can I ask you, first of all, how did that trip come about?
It was, as far as I was aware, that it was something that Mark Metcalf had organised, and I'm not sure if Headley was involved or not, but he'd got contacts over there. I don't know who they were or what it was. We were just told it was happening, and conveniently, I had a means of transport. That's as I understood it.
What role did you play in the decision to go?
None whatsoever.
Mr. Metcalf said in evidence that you encouraged the trip.
That's nonsense. No, I didn't.
What role did you play in organising it other than contributing the van?
None whatsoever.
Was there any attempt to dissuade you from going in the van?
No, I was useful.
You are a long way from the Metropolitan Police District in Northern Ireland. Why did you go?
Because that was what was required of me. The activists were going there, and obviously it was quite interesting as well. So, yeah, that was the reason.
Quite interesting in what sense?
Well, because it was going to Northern Ireland, and it was the first indication that there were contacts between the CRC, whatever they were, and Northern Ireland. So that's sort of immediately flagged up as being interesting to me.
Now, we've heard evidence last week to the effect that there were various local events, all of which were lawful. Is that true?
Yes, social events.
That you attended?
Yeah, yeah.
The gist said that you mixed freely with the provisional IRA. Can I ask you to give me a yes or no answer? Is it true that you personally mixed freely with people that you actually knew to be members of the provisional IRA?
At that time, no.
Were you satisfied with the arrangements that were made to ensure your safety in Northern Ireland?
I didn't even consider that.
Did you feel as if you were under any risk when you were there?
Well, there's always a risk, and particularly so there, but that was a risk that I was prepared to take, and I depended upon myself to mitigate that.
And Alison accompanied you on that trip, didn't she?
She did, yeah.
Did you encourage her to go?
No.
Are you sure about that?
Absolutely.
Could we take that document down now, please, and go to File 2, tab C32, 245537. This is a report dated the 4th of October 1995, and if we could look at the text, please. Give you a moment to absorb that.
Okay.
Can you help us with what you meant by serious anti-fascist activity?
I can't actually remember making this report, but I obviously did do. But by that, reading that, serious anti-fascist would be proactive physical activity against known fascists,
Why proactive?
because there was no platform for fascism,
And
wherever it was.
when you say physical, do you mean just turning out to face down the far right?
Both physical and confront them as well.
And when you use the phrase capable street fighters, what do you mean by that?
People who are capable of physical conflict.
In self-defence or offence or both?
Both.
The gist of this report appears to be that the groups concerned didn't have the capacity to do that at that time.
Correct.
Can you help us with how explicit discussions were about what anti-fascist activity was aspired to?
Well, again, this is discussions I had with Metcalfe. It was I think, I can't remember the timeline of this, but he was trying to turn the Colin Roach Centre into a party as such, and anti-fascism was a part of that party. I think he called it resistance or something. And so obviously he'd had previous experience in AFA and the tactics that they'd adopted of confronting fascism in however it reared its head, whether that's by debate on the one hand or a physical confrontation, and being proactively active in driving them out of the community.
Are you suggesting that there were people from the NMP who were explicitly advocating physically attacking people as opposed to exercising the lawful right to self-defence?
No, I don't. That's not. I wouldn't have. Well, I mean, I knew of the NMP through Metcalfe, but from what I knew of them, they would be more an ideological opposition rather than an actual physical confrontational. The same with the Daymare group as well. I put them in the similar category.
And as for people at the Colin Roach Centre?
I would say that, yes, there were individuals there. Certainly Metcalfe was minded of that, who were capable of physical confrontation, albeit not large numbers.
In self-defence?
Self-defence, proactive.
I'll come back to that in more detail later. For the moment, can we take that down, and can we have up tab C39 245 571? This is a report 13th of October 1995. Can we have the first 3 paragraphs of text expanded, please?
Okay.
The first paragraph tells us that the CRC was going to produce an anti-fascist bulletin. Can you help us with identifying that? Is this the publication called RPM or a different publication?
I don't know. No, I think RPM that was more of an umbrella thing. Mark Metcalfe had various fantastic ideas about producing bulletins and newspapers and all of this sort of stuff. I can't ever imagine, or I can't remember this actually ever coming into fruition, so I can't really answer that. It may have been a standalone pamphlet, I don't know, I can't remember.
Because at the bottom of paragraph 3 it says, at its inception, the editorial board of this bulletin will comprise of Privacy Mark Cassidy and Mark Metcalfe. How did you come to be one of the three members of the editorial board?
I was probably co-opted by Metcalfe.
What role did you play?
I can't remember.
Did you actually write anything for the CRC?
I don't, not in relation to that, I don't think I did, no. I can't even remember it.
Did you ever contribute to their literature?
I think I did, yeah.
When writing on behalf of the CRC, how did you decide what line to take in your journalism?
Go through Metcalfe. He had an overview of everything. So anything I would do or write would have to go through him for approval.
Did you give any consideration to the fact that how you wrote might influence people?
No.
Can we take that down now, please? And can we have up C41 245 619? 27th of October 1995 now. If we could have the 3 paragraphs of text up, please. I'll let you familiarise yourself with it, but my questions are going to arise from the first 2 paragraphs.
Yeah.
So can I take it you attended the Anarchist Book Fair on Saturday, the 21st of October 1995?
Yes, I did.
Why would you go to an anarchist book fair?
Well, it was a general book fair. You didn't have to be an anarchist to go there. It was a talking shop, and it was books and just of interest. It was open to the public, and I wanted to go.
As part of your cover?
Yeah.
To meet activists?
Not necessarily so, no, just to see what was going on.
You end up, though, attending in the upstairs room an impromptu meeting of the MacLibel support campaign. Can I take it from the word impromptu that this was entirely spontaneous on your part?
As far as I was concerned, it was. I can remember someone coming down and saying there's a meeting upstairs, so I didn't think that there was any pre-planning involved in that. I happened to be there, and along with us, just drifted up.
And self-evidently, you've reported on it.
Yes.
Why did you report on it?
Because it's a group that's of interest to the SDS.
Why was the MacLibel support campaign of interest?
Because they'd been reporting on it from its inception. Dave Morris was a known person, though I'd never met him prior to that. Yeah, it was of interest.
And what did you understand the MacLibel support campaign to be doing?
I think at the time they were trying to sue McDonald's over something or other. I don't know, but certainly you mentioned there London Greenpeace were mentioned. That is an organisation that I remember being associated with Bob Lambert, which stood out.
Had you gathered then your knowledge that the MacLibel support campaign was of interest from Bob Lambert or from other sources as well?
I think it was a well-known campaign. And I was there and I reported it as part of hoovering up intelligence wherever I found it.
Did you have any knowledge of previous reporting on the MacLibel support campaign?
No.
You are right to surmise that the MacLibel support campaign was supporting Dave Morris and Helen Steele in defending libel action taken against them. Why did Special Branch's interest in these people extend to their defence of civil litigation?
I have no idea.
Can you help us with what you anticipated would be done with this reporting?
I should imagine just there'd be a file on Dave Morris and it would be attached to the file. That's all. But I never really gave it any thought as to what was going to happen with the intelligence afterwards.
The second paragraph talks about forthcoming revelations, and there is a suggestion that on 4 occasions the campaign had been infiltrated. Can you help us with your understanding of whether it was being said the campaign had been infiltrated, London Greenpeace had been infiltrated by commercial or police spies?
No idea. This was just something that Dave Morris, again, this was a public meeting. It wasn't a private, secret meeting. So it was just a general background on the organisation.
Were you aware of any contacts between Special Branch and McDonald's?
No.
Did you think that this intelligence might be used to inform McDonald's of what was going on?
Not at all, no.
When you say not at all, do you mean you don't know?
I don't know because it was just one of a number of, I also mentioned the Vegetarian Society and all that sort of thing. That was all part and parcel of that. What happened to this and where it went and who it would be of interest? No idea.
Mr. Metcalfe gave evidence that the CRC supported this campaign and leafleted on its behalf. Is that correct?
It may well have done. I don't recall that, but yeah. I don't
were you involved in doing that?
I don't remember doing that, no.
If you could take that document down now. John Dines, whilst you were an undercover officer, did it come to your attention that Helen Steele was searching for John Dines?
It certainly didn't come from any of the activists. I think later on it was mentioned, I think Bob Lambert might have mentioned it in relation to some visit overseas that she'd made in relation to that.
What steps did you understand the SDS to be taking in response to Helen Steele's search for John Dines?
I wasn't aware of any steps. That was something that the management were dealing with.
Could we have up, please, from tab C58, 245850, please? This document, if we look on page, it's 13th of January 1996 now, the Devonant Centre, Whitechapel. It's a meeting of the Solidarity Federation. I'd like to go, please, to page 2 and the last paragraph. I'll let you read that, but I'm particularly interested in the last 2 or 3 lines.
Okay.
The last few lines make an observation about Mr. Blair, Ms. Steele, and Mr. Morris. These are the type of anarchist prepared to live out their beliefs and as such will always be about to present problems. What did you mean by that?
Well, it was a measure of their commitment. I can't remember. Well, obviously I did mention Norman Blair, but he must have been at that thing. That was just a general assessment because they were prepared to, as I said earlier in that, a lot of the anarchist type they were sort of very middle class lifestyle people. They weren't politically, they weren't committed anarchists in like some of the other organisations, the Solidarity Federation, for example. But what the likes of Helen Steele, Dave Morris, and they were people who not only sort of lived that lifestyle as far as I could see, but were committed politically to it as well.
So what did you mean by problems?
Or problems in any sort of case, in interesting from an SDS and special branch point of view. Yeah, the problems of causing public or potential public order issues, or just come into notice because of their background. Although I wasn't involved in that particular thing, but they've been around for a long time. So, yeah, problems is perhaps a bit of a generalisation in that respect.
Did you report these views essentially because of their notoriety?
It probably is an element of that, yeah, because they were not people who I would mix with or, had any interest in what they were doing. That could have been happening elsewhere. It was just a generalisation on my part.
Notoriety
Definitely,
to the
yeah.
SDS
Yeah.
and special branch.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. And longevity as well.
Can we take that down, please? Could we have from tab C44 245 647? This is a report, 4th of November 1995, of a meeting of Republican Forum at the London Welsh Centre, Gray's Inn Road. From the first paragraph, you will see the speakers are recorded, and they were Michael Donegan of the Ulster Executive Committee of Republican Sinn Féin and Kevin McQuillan of the Liam Meadows Committee. And it records McQuillan was formerly vice chair of the IRSP, the Irish Republican Socialist Party. Were you at this meeting?
I was.
Can we go to paragraphs 2 and 3, please? Paragraph 2 summarises Mr. Donegan's speech and the role, which is about the Republican Sinn Féin. I'll let you absorb the content of those two paragraphs.
Okay.
Would it be fair to summarise these speakers as men who were talking about the Irish question through the prisms of class, communism and socialism?
Yes.
And if we go to paragraph 4, I'll let you absorb that. But the question will be, the bottom line is they were anti the ceasefire then in place, and they were in favour of the resumption of the armed struggle.
Correct.
And what was the significance of that line to you as an SDS undercover police officer?
Well, looking at at that particular time, 1995, everybody, the government led everyone to believe that the ceasefire that had come into place in 94 was a permanent thing. There was certainly an element of that to move on. And that certainly was the case when I wrote this report and went to that meeting. But there were still, and in INLA, or IRSP, or the political wing of, hadn't agreed to a ceasefire yet. And so they were looking to put their viewpoint to the forefront of why they shouldn't accept the ceasefire, because it was completely, the struggle wasn't over.
How prevalent were anti-peace protest views in the circles you were mixing in?
Well, up until the point that I got involved in Republican Forum, there weren't any. I don't know. I don't remember seeing any. In Belfast, I did speak to a couple of people in Republican Sinn Féin in West Belfast who, yeah, they were sceptical rather than critical. I had to be careful what they were saying there, but it wasn't. It was pretty an unusual line to take, in my experience anyway.
And the paragraph we've got expanded here includes the sentence, many in the audience expressed disquiet about the platform's rejection of the ceasefire. Was that disquiet widespread?
No, I just got a feeling that, I think they expected to get a bit more support from the ground floor. I mean, there were various, it was a public meeting, so I don't know, there were various people in there. They weren't all necessarily supporters of the IRSP in that respect. So, yeah, I think people were, at that time, very optimistic about the success of the peace process in Northern Ireland. And so, yes, that was my assessment at the time.
Focusing on those who were arguing against it, in terms of what they were actually doing, how much of what they were doing was talk and how much of it was action?
What the people who we're talking about here,
the people who were against the ceasefire.
Well, I don't know. In terms of action, I mean, this is all happening in Northern Ireland. I mean, McQuillan had come over here at this particular time. He was still injured. Him and a colleague of his had narrowly escaped being murdered during a feud 2 years earlier. He'd come over here primarily for a rest and recuperation type of thing, and an opportunity for a platform to express his views on that. But it was still very much my understanding at this particular time, there wasn't a great deal of support. It was a minority type of view in terms of the overall confidence in the peace process at that time.
And they themselves were advancing their point of view through talk and argument?
Yes.
How big was the Republican Forum?
What, in terms of numbers or groups?
Both.
I expect there would have been, what, maybe half a dozen groups. And then the meetings it would vary, something like 20 people perhaps. They weren't huge, but they were representing various strands of anti-peace process type points of view.
At this stage, was the focus of Republican Forum all on Ireland, or was it more widely on a Republican movement generally?
I think the main focus obviously was on Northern Ireland, but it did try to offer a wider umbrella. So you'd have, I don't think there was sort of an input from like Welsh nationalist type thing, all that very sort of peripheral type of groups. But yes, the main focus was on Northern Ireland.
And in terms of revolutionary potency to overthrow our system of democracy with a constitutional monarchy, how potent was the Republican Forum?
Well, as a forum, that's all it was, a forum. It was the constituents of that particular, or certain elements of them, including the IRSP at that time, would certainly fit that description.
Well, in the terms of that's what they wanted?
Yeah, of course, yeah. That is what Irish Republican...
My question is, what were their prospects of bringing it about?
Through the Republican Forum?
Yeah.
Very little.
Can we take that document down now and go to, from tab B24, sir, 527890. Page 2, please. Following the chronology, this is 31st of January 1996. It's on a completely different subject. It's an authority for you to work outside the Metropolitan Police District. It says the above-named officer has been requested by his organisation to travel to Sunderland on the 30th of January 1996 for the purpose of a meeting. The officer will remain outside the Metropolitan Police District overnight. Official transport will be used. If we translate that from official administrative documentation to the ground truth, does that mean to say you used your van to drive you and Mark Metcalfe to the Sunderland against Tranmere Rovers match?
Primarily, but it was on Metcalfe's. It was a long way. It was a night game, so it didn't. And we didn't stay overnight. He came back. But he did say he had some paperwork he needed to pick up, Colin Roach's paperwork, that was at his parents' address. So it was killing two birds with one stone. But yeah, essentially I was going up for the football.
But whatever, certainly what you've described doesn't amount to a meeting.
No, it's not. Well, it wasn't a meeting, no.
Can you help us why someone felt the need to write it up as a meeting as opposed to you travelling to a football match with one of the people you were mixing with undercover?
Well, I'm speculating here, but I was going up there with Mark Metcalf and Alison, by the way. And yeah, it was worth mentioning why it was dressed as a meeting. I don't know. These authorities go up the line. It's a box ticking exercise. So, you know, they could have written whatever they wanted. Then it got to a point where I didn't bother telling them in the end. But there we are.
Was Alison's presence the sensitivity? The sensitivity was Alison's presence. Why this is written up in the way it is and not entirely truthfully?
No, I don't think she wasn't even mentioned, I don't think.
Sorry, when you say not even mentioned, do you mean...
No, I don't think I mentioned her. She came up because it was a jolly... So she's going to see a football game up in Sunderland. It might have even been midweek, I can't remember now, but we were there and back in the day.
Could we take that document down now, please? Tab C108 next, 246303. Now coming on to the theme of the Independent Working Class Association. This is a document dated the 23rd of May at 1996. I'll give you an opportunity to look at paragraph 1 first of all. In fact, forgive me, we need to look at another document first. Could we have up tab C47 245 678? And 14th of November 1995, if we could have paragraph 1 up, please. How closely were you involved with the instigation of the IWCA?
I wasn't involved at all. We were only made aware of it when they came to the Colin Roach Centre.
At this stage, how strong were your connections with Red Action?
What date is this? November?
November 95.
Well, I mean, a couple of weeks earlier, I had come into contact with them, but I didn't have any real contact with them up until I met them at this particular meeting.
Paragraph 2, please. In private, RA leaders admit that the IWCA is simply a front for Red Action to enable it to sustain its position in working class politics. Were you privy to those in private conversations, or are you getting this second hand? I'm getting it.
I think it's a mixture of second hand and also in my opinion.
Can you help us then as to why you formed the opinion that the IWCA was simply a front?
Well, it's like a lot of organisations, you know, Red Action they've been going for a long time back then. But they set up an organisation which was community-based on a national. They had quite grandiose schemes to make that successful. But the political direction of it and all the ideas and pushing for it to happen came from within that organisation.
Was it an organisation whose membership overlapped with, but was not the same as, Red Action?
Yes, I would say so. Not in all cases, but mostly, yeah.
An organisation which had a purpose which was different from Red Action's?
On the face of it, yeah.
So as the erstwhile magnet which drew people into the RA orbit, anti-fascist action is less attractive now that the right is largely inactive. Red Action feels its influence sliding. It's right, isn't it, that the far right were confronting people publicly far less than they were earlier in the 90s?
Well, I'm not sure. I'd probably dispute the fact that they were confronting anybody. I think it was the other way around. Certainly Red Action had done huge strides into physically beating them off the streets, successfully so as well.
So to understand your evidence, by this stage they had been successfully beaten off the streets?
Pretty much, yeah.
They hope that the IWCA will appeal to the same type of activist who joined AFA, namely working-class street fighters with little political sophistication. Such raw material will be very valuable to RA. Could you explain in what way that sort of person would be very valuable?
Well, I think, like in a lot of organisations, you have people who make the political decisions, have all the policy, but you still need people to be the foot soldiers to make that happen, be it leafleting or ensuring security around leafleting, because they were going into communities where probably some of the left-wing groups would shy away from, the white working-class type of estates in London, certainly. So they needed a core of people who they could rely on for security, really.
Why, if the fascists had been beaten off the street, did they need that?
Well, you said the fascists were beaten off the streets in as much that there were no, or very few, overt paper sales like there had been years previously. But there was still a strong sort of anti-red attitude, shall we say, in certain places in London where it wasn't a safe place to be espousing left-wing politics, shall we say.
Can we now go to the document we had up a moment ago, C108 246 303? Paragraph 1, we're moving now from November 95 to May 96. And this is about the launch of the IWCA. We were looking 6 months earlier at its formation. Can you explain the difference between formation and launch and what was happening?
I mean, I think that the other report, the early report, refers to when 2 Red Action members came to the Colin Roach Centre. They'd been invited to speak on behalf of, and I think at that stage they were just sounding out for support amongst community groups that they had sort of minimal contact or knowledge of. And then if they were amenable to that, to obviously take sides or support the IWCA, the actual launch meant that it was strong enough, or it was felt to be strong enough, to actually launch it as a political entity at that later date.
Can we look at paragraph 3, please? This is about strategy. The IWCA is aware, however, just how controversial is its policy of relegating the issue of immigration to become secondary to the housing problem for white working-class communities. This will rankle the politically correct left, who are seen as middle-class reformists, but it is aimed at attracting the racist white working class who might otherwise be expected to vote for the BNP. As its policies become more publicly known, the IWCA will be fighting a political battle with the broad left. It will either succeed in its own right or fail and in consequence be reduced to a white male-dominated group, rather like Red Action circa 1982. Mm-hmm. Can I take from that the methodology of the IWCA was going to be participation in the democratic process?
Yes.
And it was focused on contesting elections rather than promoting disorder?
Yes, but not, obviously, that wouldn't be the candidates that they were hoping to encourage would be community activists. Red Action themselves wouldn't be taking a part in that type of thing, because, as I've said there, they had a bit of a bad reputation. It's certainly not one that would attract anyone to vote for them in a local election, for example.
And does it follow that insofar as the IWCA wanted to change this country, it was seeking to do so entirely through democratic means?
Well, that was what they said, yeah, that was the intention.
Is it what they did?
Well, that's time will tell, but at the time, I know certainly they had there was one councillor who was a former member of Red Action, but whether or not they were successful in doing that, I don't know. But I think I've said in other reports that they mirrored very much the Sinn Féin approach in Northern Ireland. So it was like a Sinn Féin PIRA dynamic on a smaller scale.
That may begin to answer my next question, which is, if the IWCA is not involved in public disorder and it is behaving democratically and it has no chance of seizing power, why is it being reported on?
Well, there's having political aims on the one hand, and there's a way of how it was aspirational at this stage. Yes, all very noble. I think every left-wing group probably have those, with the exception of one or two, of going down that road of democratic elections and all the rest of it. Whether that would actually come to anything or not, it seemed a bit of a leap of imagination. So at that stage, that was my view on it. Perfectly legitimate way of reporting on this, what at the time was a clear Red Action front.
Why does just assume for the moment it's for the purpose of this question, it's a Red Action front. Why does that justify reporting on an entirely peaceful democratic organisation?
Because they're related to Red Action in a different name.
And what is it about Red Action that causes a concern?
Well, not a concern, it's a well-stated fact. If you look at the left wing, in my opinion, Red Action were the premium predators. They were the top of the tree. They'd had in the time I was there, they had 2 members arrested and convicted for terrorism, access to firearms, explosives, even firing on police officers. That makes them pretty dangerous.
Yeah, we'll come to that in due course, but just to be clear, that's in your time in Special Branch.
Yes.
Can we go now to C111 246345? This is dated the 2nd of June 1996. It's a meeting of anti-fascist action at the Tutton Shrive Public House, Upper Street, Islington. It's about AFA's relationship with the IWCA in the context of a report of a meeting in this pub. If you want to have a quick look at that page, to refresh your memory, we'll then, once you're ready, go over the page to the source comment.
Okay.
If we go over the page to the source comment now, the overall impression given by this meeting was that AFA is an integral part of the IWCA, with its own emphasis on white working class males who enjoy violence. Since Red Action runs AFA, and AFA will end up running the IWCA, it is almost inevitable that the IWCA will end up being run like Red Action, namely being confrontational and antagonistic towards other groups on the left. Harold is keen to promote AFA as an IWCA Praetorian Guard, which clearly will serve the interests of Red Action. So you seem to be describing, in the earlier reports, IWCA as a Red Action front, and here you're describing a chain, Red Action to AFA to IWCA. Is that fair?
Yeah, yeah.
Why the change?
I don't think there is a change. They're all the same. It's an umbrella organisation, and that's what it looks exactly the same to me. I treat them as exactly the same. They are one and the same. It just allowed, the IWCA allowed more people who would not want to be involved with Red Action, or maybe AFA even, to give them a wider platform.
Well, the significance being the IWCA was committed to democratic campaigning, whereas on your evidence, Red Action is far more predisposed to violence.
Yeah, in crude terms, yeah. But, yes, they wanted to be sort of regarded as normal. Again, look at the model in Northern Ireland. Exactly the same.
Keen to promote AFA as an IWCA Praetorian Guard. First of all, Mr. Metcalfe's evidence was that by this stage, June 1996, whatever its aspirations were, AFA did not have the capacity to do this. Do you agree?
No.
Could you explain why you disagree?
With Metcalfe, he wasn't trusted by Red Action. I never really found out what their fallout was, and he certainly wasn't, although I noted early on that he'd been involved in AFA. As I got to know him, I thought there's no way that he has been effective in AFA, and he certainly wasn't trusted. I knew that from Red Action members. So he was anti them anyway. He was anti being involved, or the Colin Roach Centre being involved with the IWC. Yeah, so yes, of course his memories are sort of prejudicial against anything to do with Red Action, I would suggest.
Why does IWCA need a Praetorian Guard if the far right have been battered off the streets?
A lot of AFA members joined AFA because they like beating up fascists. It's as simple as that. You don't want to alienate these people. You want to think they've still got some sort of job to do. And like I said earlier, the IWCA were taking that message to places where the left wouldn't normally go. You're looking at places in Bermondsey and places like that, which would the left would run a mile from, because they were notoriously, a hotbed of BNP activists in the past. So yes, they needed that, a backbone of ready street fighters, and keep them busy.
Could we take that document down now and go to Southwark? Tab C50 245 736. This is a report dated the 1st of December 1995. It's about the Southwark Council Labour dispute. I'll ask first of all for paragraph 1 to be expanded.
Okay. Yep.
So this is an industrial dispute that you are reporting on.
Yes.
It's a dispute between workers for Southwark Council who are being moved into the direct labour organisation, and it is a dispute which is not being supported by the union UCAT because they had advised their members to accept the new conditions and transfer of employer.
Something like that, yeah.
SWP positively chased off. Militant Labour Frank Smith has merely put in an appearance. The picture appears to be that the far left is not really involved in this dispute.
I think that's a fair assessment. I mean, Frank Smith, obviously, I think he was an actual building worker. But again, I mean, the SWP, they were like flies, you know, they turn up at anything and they're just getting everyone's way. So it doesn't surprise me they were chased off.
So the dispute is John Jones and Terry Mason, who are not accepting the UCAT advice and are resisting transfer on the terms offered, so have been sacked. You are reporting on the other side of the union dispute, namely the union convener, Tony O'Brien, describing him as despised by the sacked workers and their supporters. Is that fair?
Yes.
If we go to paragraph 2. I'll let you read that. In a nutshell, the workers, having been abandoned by UCAT, are now supported by the building workers group, and they have some funding from the trade union Unison.
Yes, yeah.
And further reporting about Mr. O'Brien's role as the villain of the piece.
Yeah, yeah.
If we then zoom out, and before zooming back in again, I'd just like you to note the length of paragraph 1 and paragraph 2 in comparison to paragraph 3. Then can we have paragraph 3 up, please? With Unison backing and solid support, this dispute is set to run and run. Escalation is possible, and sacked workers are considering a concerted attempt to disrupt the next full meeting of Southwark Council. Yeah. No details of what that disruption might look like. Did you have any idea what sort of disruption was being talked about?
No, that would have come from either Metcalfe or the other person mentioned in that report. I'm not sure I can use his name. Bear with me. The person that was I was in the building workers group with, I'm not sure whether his name's been redacted or not.
Right, do you want to write it down?
Yeah, I'll just on the safe side.
Brian Higgins.
Okay, that's fair enough, yeah. Yes, either himself, I got on with Brian very well, and the reason I was taking, I mean, when was this, December 95, I'd already been involved, I think, with the Republican Forum, so it was important that I maintain contact with Brian Higgins purely from that point of view. This was secondary.
Disruption in support of an industrial dispute can take many forms, including ones which are entirely legal, can't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
You have put in a report which has very considerable detail about trade union activities.
Yep.
And about the Building Workers Group. And then a mention of, without any particulars, the possibility of disruption. Did you report this because of what you were able to say about the manoeuvrings between the different groups?
I'm not sure I understand that question. The manoeuvrings between different left-wing groups.
Between the Building Workers Group, UCAT and Unison.
Well, I reported it because it was brought to my attention, and it was I think on one of the pickets they had down, I actually went down there with people from the Building Workers Group. I don't think there was anyone else from Colin Roads, I can't remember. So yes, it was something I had been directly involved in and reported it as I was told.
Could you just expand upon why you thought it necessary to report this?
Well, because as I've stated, it was important for me to stay on side, as it were, with Brian Higgins. He was important through the Republican Forum. So I couldn't just pick and choose. When I'm invited, I originally got involved with the Republican Forum through my being a building worker. And so I couldn't just pick and choose where I'd want to get involved with it. If Brian wanted me, you talk about a group of about 2 or 3 people here.
This is all lawful activity, isn't it?
Yes, it is, yeah.
Trade union activity.
Trade union activity.
What did you think was going to be done with this intelligence?
No idea. It didn't even occur to me what would have been. I was involved to the extent I've just said, and for all I know, it was worth nothing.
Was one of the things that Special Branch did to track the involvement of people who agitated in industrial disputes?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Can we take that down now? Tab C51 245790. This report, dated 19th of December 1995, is about the CRC's affiliation to the East London AFA. And you are, on the face of this report, nominated as a delegate in that relationship between the CRC and East London AFA. Mm-hmm. If you need to refresh your memory, do so. But my first question is going to be, how did you come to be so nominated?
I think because I think since Metcalfe's idea of having some sort of anti-fascist element to this new party that he was trying to get off the ground, obviously I was put in that position. I think Headley was involved as well, and the approach to AFA was actually made at Headley's behest because he knew people there, and I was obviously co-opted into that as that role as the anti-fascist person at the Colin Roads Centre.
How did that benefit your deployment?
Very much. It accelerated it considerably in the direction I wanted it to go.
Which was?
To get into Red Action.
And what did it involve? Being the liaison between East London AFA and the CRC?
Well, I think initially, we were the conduit between the two. I think it was a bit of I remember that meeting. It was a bit of a tense meeting because obviously Metcalfe, I think he was afraid of them actually. The 2 individuals that came, he was uncomfortable.
Why?
Well, they'd obviously had previous history. As I said earlier, I'm not sure what that is, but I don't think they trusted him, and I'm sure the feeling was mutual. So he tried to stay right down the middle as respect to that. But Headley was quite keen. If we were going to have an anti-fascist capability or an involvement, that really the only effective way to do that would be through an affiliation with AFA.
Did you support the affiliation?
Yes, I did.
Did you push for it?
I didn't say I pushed for it. I think we voted on it. and I voted in favour of it.
Did you advocate for it before the vote in any way?
I can't remember if our opinions were canvassed, but if I would have been in favour of it, yeah.
Was that because it was going to benefit your deployment?
Yes, and I think if they were going to be serious, there was that side of it, but clearly if they wanted to have a credible, established anti-fascist aspect to this organisation, that was the only possible route they could go down, in my opinion.
There came a time, didn't there, when the CRC also affiliated with the IWCA?
Yes, they did. Yeah.
Did you support that?
Did we vote on it? I can't. If there was a vote on it, yes, I would have supported it. I don't know what the timeline was in relation to that, but yes, I would have supported that. But again, Metcalfe was reluctant because I think there's an element of jealousy there as well. They were progressing something which he wanted to aspire to, but he was limited by the size of his position.
And why did you support affiliation with the IWCA?
Connection to Red Action.
Can we take that document down now? Go to C57 245 835. This is a report on Dr. Smith, 12th of January 1996. And if we look at the text, please. Graham Smith has not joined the Colin Roach Centre's political group Resistance, but has continued to follow his own agenda, working within the community against the police. Can you help us with why you understood Dr. Smith had not joined Resistance?
I think my impression of it was that he liked it being the way it used to be before Metcalfe's influence, really. Metcalfe was trying to change a community organisation with its many established community links into something which just appeared to be a bit more like a political, another left-wing party. I suspect that's why.
Is another way of describing that is he was focused on his police accountability work?
By the looks of it, yeah.
Which you have described here again as working within the community against the police.
Yeah.
I asked you a lot of questions this morning about that, but is this just an expression of the same feeling that assisting people with complaints against the police is anti-police?
It's against the police. Yeah.
Smith helps people with grievances against the police, and one grateful client presented him with a brand new motorcycle on winning some £70,000 compensation from the commissioner. Dr. Smith says that's simply not true. Might you have been mistaken about that fact?
No, but Metcalfe would have been, because that's where I got it from. He was prone to exaggeration at times, but there we are.
And to be clear about winning some £70,000 from the Commissioner, do we mean that either the Commissioner has agreed to settle litigation in the sum of £70,000 or a court has ordered him to pay £70,000?
I wrote that as it was described to me.
By Mr. Metcalfe?
I can hear him say it now, yeah.
If we look at paragraph 2, Smith is currently working on his PhD, the subject of which is policing in Stoke Newington. Once this is complete, he intends to establish a charitable foundation with friends in the legal profession which will focus on allegations of police crime and corruption. He firmly believes that the reputation of the HCDA is alive and well, and that it can be built on without any sort of left-wing or anarchist politics attached to it. Would you agree that if one wanted to write a PhD on the subject of police crime and corruption, the Stoke Newington police station in the early 1990s is as good a place as any?
I should imagine so, yes, yeah, definitely.
And is it right that Dr. Smith was pursuing his interest in police accountability and addressing police crime and corruption in ways that were absent any sort of left-wing or anarchist politics.
That was my impression. But this is all that information came from Metcalfe directly. But I think that would have been my spin on it. Yes.
So why are you reporting on Dr. Smith?
Again, I'm hoovering up all the intelligence that I was doing, whether or not it was relevant, or that's not for me to say. Could have gone to the office and they said, well, that doesn't matter anymore. It wasn't my concern.
Any management reaction?
What, to that particular report?
Yeah.
No. To
the question of reporting on Dr. Smith at all?
No.
Can we take that down now, please? Tab C62, 245891. This is a nominal pro forma dated the 30th of January 1996. It's about Mr. Steve Headley, from whom we have heard evidence. At the bottom of that page, after the usual descriptors, it describes him as violent, strong Irish accent. Can you help us with the basis for reporting that Mr. Headley was violent?
Well, I knew that what's the date of this? 30th?
30th of January 96.
I'd known that he'd been in physical confrontations. That was we've spoken about in the Colin Roach Centre, though I didn't witness that, not at this stage myself anyway. I don't know what the context of that was, but he certainly was an intimidating person. What people found him intimidating at the centre.
Intimidating and violent are two different things.
They are, but he did have a violent reputation, yeah.
So if at this stage you're working purely on what you've heard about Mr. Headley, can you help us with what you had heard about specific acts of violence?
There was, I think he'd been in, well, obviously in Northern Ireland, but he'd been in, I thought it was some kind of anti-fascist confrontation way before I knew him. Certainly Metcalfe was aware of that, but it's it's a violent or propensity to violence. I think it was, I was convinced of that.
Had you been told about any single specific instance of Mr. Headley using violence?
If I had, I can't remember them, no, not now.
Is this report then based upon your impression of him?
Yes.
And just to explore part of your answer a couple of questions ago, when I asked you about violence, you said he'd been in Northern Ireland. Why does being in Northern Ireland make one violent?
Oh, he was been in violent situations where he was from, that part of his very strong Republican area.
From the Bogside?
No, well, I think his family might have been from there.
Derry.
Yeah, all part of London, Derry, sure, but he had family in the Bogside, but he was from Shantallow in the northern part of the city.
So you were making an assumption that because he was an abrasive working man of large build with a strong Northern Irish accent who had been brought up in Londonderry, he must have been involved in violence.
Not just that, no. I mean, there were other, I think, I can't even remember when he left Northern Ireland to come over to London, but he'd been, I'm sure he'd spoken him, it might have been him or sort of Metcalfe, or he'd been in a confrontation with fascists before. In what context that was, I don't know, but that gave me, he certainly had a propensity to violence, and that had to be flagged up.
Can we take that down? Tab C82, 246066. This is another report about Mr. Headley, 13th of March 1996. And if we go to the PECS paragraph, we see again described as violent, strong Irish accent, to which has been added heavy drinker. And then if we have the text at the bottom of the page, give you a moment to read that.
Yeah.
Did you witness this arrest?
No.
And so what was the basis for reporting that Headley was tempted to use violence against the arresting officer?
And this is what Metcalfe's told me. I think Metcalfe was slightly afraid of him as well.
Mr. Headley has denied that when he was detained for fly posting before being released without charge, using any violence or being tempted to use any violence. Have you got any basis on which to gainsay that?
No idea, I wasn't there.
So we've looked at two reports about Mr. Headley, which describe him in unflattering terms as a violent, heavy drinker. Can I take it that Mr. Headley's file might be used to inform police who had to deal with him, and in particular, if he was involved in a public order, a demonstration with a risk of public disorder?
I don't know, because a lot of those markers that are on that's on a special branch report. Violent markers in particular would be put on a PNC file, which obviously is accessible by any police officer. What the crossover is between that type of reporting and somebody being put on a police national computer, I didn't know there was one.
I wasn't thinking about the police national computer. I was thinking about the sort of reports which TO20 prepared for uniformed police when there were demonstrations in the offing.
Yeah, possibly, yeah. If someone has what is a risk of being violent or a propensity to violence, absolutely right, they needed to know that.
And that might... sorry.
Sorry. And how they make that a risk assessment using that particular, I don't know. But yes, I think that is a relevant
and so that could lead to uniformed police on the day keeping a special eye out for him.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm not... That's out of my remit.
Could we take that down now, please? From tab B25, 527328. Page 2, please. This is about the Assistant Commissioner Special Operations, David Vanessa's visit to the SDS on the 15th of February, 1996. Do you recall that visit?
I do, yeah.
Could we go to page 6, please? There is a summary on that page, at the top of the page of your deployment. If we could have that expanded, please. This is a gist, but it records the groups that you were involved with as being HCDA, Colin Roach Centre, IWCA, and sundry anarchist groupings. We have seen plenty of reporting on the HCDA, the CRC, Resistance, and the IWCA in investigating your deployment, Mr. Jenner. But what is the basis for the sundry anarchist groupings? Can you explain who they are?
No, I can't, quite honestly. I think I put it in the same... This looks like a cut and paste thing from one of Bob's repertoires with the HCDA anarchist, crops up. There weren't any.
While maintaining an inside view of all public order events in the Hackney area, the officer has unique access to a range of anti-police campaigns in London. Commenced operations February 1995. And does that accurately reflect what you were doing?
Well, I say I didn't write it. No, I didn't. I had access to a lot of things, not just the anti-police campaigns. But no, that's an overstatement and a generalisation.
the reference to anti-police campaigns is being made in the context of a summary for a very senior officer coming to visit the unit. Did you get the impression that your managers were seeking to trumpet the access that you had to a range of anti-police campaigns to the ACSO?
What was the date of this again? You remind me?
15th of February 96.
Yeah, I think so. I think that was part of the internal politics. Is you want to make your charges look as important and as having much influence as possible. That's a natural enough thing to do.
And the atmosphere is such that trumpeting access to a wide range of anti-police campaigns is something that is likely to find favour with the ACSO, in the opinion of...
I would imagine so, yes.
Management.
Yeah, of course.
Could we take that down now, please? Tab C67 245 928. We're now into March 1996, and we're back to the Trevor Monaville campaign. Now, the march and rally in memory of Trevor, due to be held on the 16th of March 1996 in Stoke Newington, to which 50 or 100 people were likely to attend, but where disorder is recorded as being unlikely. Mm-hmm. Could we have the text expanded, please?
Okay.
There was considerable concern about Mr. Monaville's treatment by police in Stoke Newington, but he met his death after being knifed to death. And so he did not die directly as a result of the police. Did you know that at the time?
No.
How much contact did you have with the Trevor Monaville campaign during the first year of your deployment?
None, other than what I was. I don't recall even going to this thing. Again, this is a thing that Metcalfe dealt with exclusively, and any information related to that would have been based on what he'd told me.
Did you have any direct contact with Trevor's family?
No, not that I recall. No, I wouldn't need to.
This was always the sort of event that was going to be a peaceful and dignified affair, wasn't it?
As far as I could assess, yeah.
Was it really of any value to report that disorder was unlikely?
Well, that's a standard question in any sort of public order type thing, you know, give your assessment on that. And of course it is unlikely. You can never say never. And that's not pointing the finger at the people involved.
Do I take from that answer that whatever you might think of the merits of the question, you were doing what you were expected to do?
Absolutely, yeah.
Did you attend this event?
I don't think I did, no.
And this is a campaign that would be considered anti-police?
In light of the fact that it's going to happen outside of, was it happening outside of Stoke Newington, or it's a Stoke Newington police thing? Yes, in that general sort of term, it would be, yeah.
Can we take that down now, please? Could we have from tab C68 245 929? This is a report dated at the bottom the 13th of February 1996, well in advance of the event reported on 20th of April 1996. It is about a proposed march which is said to be being organised by the CRC and SERSHA. Could we go, please, to the first paragraph? Plans are being made to stage a demonstration in Hackney or in the Islington Holloway area on the 20th of April to focus attention on the 80th anniversary of the Easter Uprising in Ireland and on the plight of Republican prisoners. The cases of prisoners detained in the area, for example, Hayes and Taylor, will be given prominence. It is hoped that Republican bands will take part and that prominent Republican speakers will attend. There will be a planning meeting on the 20th of February. This matter was discussed after the Pyra bomb blast on the 9th of February. First of all, the Easter Uprising, a totemic event for Irish Republicans.
Indeed, yeah.
The cases of prisoners detained in the area, Pat Hayes, Jan Taylor, are they the gentlemen you were referring to earlier as having been convicted of terrorist offences and sentenced to life imprisonment?
One of them, Hayes.
Hayes.
Yeah.
And Mr. Taylor, can you help us with him?
Didn't know anything about him, his background, no.
The Pyra bomb blast on the 9th of February, that is to say 4 days before the date of this report, is that a reference to the large bomb that was detonated on South Quay on the Isle of Dogs, killing 2 people and injuring more than 100?
Yes.
And causing very considerable economic damage.
Yes.
What was the reaction at the Colin Roach Centre to that attack?
Some of the individuals that I spoke to were quite excited by it.
Excited
child.
in what way?
Because, again, they're sort of secondary, they love all the sort of revolutionary stuff, and here, it's all kicking off again, and that sort of puerile excitement, I would describe it as. Not everybody, but certain individuals, yeah.
Celebrating the murder of 2 human beings?
Alison, for example, thought it was quite an exciting development.
What was the reaction of SERSHA?
I didn't have any contacts with SERSHA directly. I think they obviously were involved or communicating to the Colin Roach Centre, but that would have been through Metcalfe himself.
Can I take it that the reaction was certainly not sufficient to stop planning for what at that stage was going to be a march?
No, not at all. Not as far as I was aware, no.
Were you at the planning meeting?
For the march, no. Because this was a SERSHA event, as I understood it. So I think the Colin Roach's position would be to publicise it, obviously, and to get people to go down and join in as appropriate.
And can we go to the next paragraph, please? SDS comment, 20th of April is Hitler's birthday, and it is said that a big Blood and Honour gig in London is being planned for that day. Furthermore, it is reported that the extreme right will be seeking a confrontation and that the redirection and/or venue for the gig will be leaked beforehand. Obviously, especially in the wake of the Pyra bomb, any publicised Republican event could become the focus for extreme right anger. Just hold that information for the moment, and can we take this document down and go to tab 84, 245085. This is moving on now to the 23rd of May 1995, and if we could, I think that must be a wrong reference. I want a document about the further planning for the benefits. Now, I see, sir, we're coming up to 3:30. Would that be a moment to take the break?
To find your place, certainly, of course. It would be. Is 10 minutes enough? We'll break for 10 minutes. Bath.
Thank you, sir. The correct reference is 246085. This is a report of the 19th of March 1996. If we could have paragraph 1 expanded first, please. Following the decision by Sinn Féin not to support a demonstration to mark the 80th anniversary of the Easter Uprising through the streets of Hackney and Islington on the 20th of April, organisers at the Colin Roach Centre are determined to go ahead with a benefit night on Friday the 19th of April. Proceeds from this will be donated to the Saoirse campaign. So it would appear that the plan for a march was replaced by a plan for a benefits, a fundraising event. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
I can't remember reading that. Yes, it would have been right.
And that the reason for the change in approach was not the conflict with the Blood and Honour event, but was because Sinn Féin did not support the demonstration.
I can't remember the exact reason for that, no.
Can we go to paragraph 2, please? Should Metcalfe pull off this coup, it will show other groups on the left, particularly Red Action, which is supporting the benefit event, that the CRC has an active Irish political agenda. No other left-wing group has plans to mark this important anniversary. Metcalfe regards the fact that McAlliskey has had links with Republican Sinn Féin as an added bonus as far as his credentials and those of his group are concerned. The reference to Ms McAlliskey being that she was a potential speaker
yes.
at this event. So this is your assessment, is it, of what Metcalfe is trying to do?
Yes, it is.
And what was it based on?
I think, as I touched on earlier, Metcalfe was... He didn't like Red Action. And I think it was his attempt to show them that he too had the political credentials and contacts to organise an event in spite of them. I think it was just one-upmanship on his part. And I think up to that point, I didn't realise that he had, allegedly, these links to Northern Ireland. Mary Nellis, I think, was one.
Do you have any doubts about the sincerity of Mr Metcalfe's commitment to United Ireland?
No, I don't have any doubts about that, no.
Could we take that document down now, please, and have up Volume 2, tab C100. It's 246192. Thank you. This is a report of the fundraising event itself. If we could expand the text, please. Records that some 70 people attended from political groups with Irish Republican links, for example, Red Action. £320 is raised, and this is presented to Peter Middleton, acting on behalf of the prisoners. Middleton is said to have explained to the audience that the Saoirse campaign had been replaced by a new organisation under the name of Fúiseáilt, which means liberation. And then it goes on to talk about the raffle prizes that had helped to raise this money. Were you present at this event?
Yes, I was.
And it was your understanding, was it, that the money was going to support Irish Republican prisoners?
Yes.
During your deployment, did you ever obtain any intelligence about any active terrorist planning?
No.
Did you at any time during your deployment obtain any intelligence about any potential future terrorist activity?
No.
Did you obtain any intelligence relevant to details of past unsolved terrorist offences?
Not until I'd left.
Not
until
as,
I'd left SDS.
not as an SDS.
Not as an
undercover
SDS
police
officer, no.
Did you provide any intelligence or come across any information about any physical or material support for the commission of terrorist offending, past or present?
No.
Did you identify any members of proscribed terrorist organisations on the mainland?
Yes.
Could you write down who?
I think we've already mentioned them. I'll write them down. Christ. I'm trying to think of his name now. It was the same person that was at the public meeting in that I went to when the IRSP came across to
The
London.
Republican Forum meeting?
Yes, that's it, yeah. He was one of the attendees from there. That's
One of the speakers?
Yes, he was, yeah.
So at that stage, not exactly hiding away?
No, he wasn't, no.
Okay.
Well, not in the sense that you're inferring. He was certainly having a rest from life at the sharp end in Northern Ireland, yeah.
Anybody else?
Not that I can recall, no.
Did you identify or report upon any fundraising other than that which was stated to be for prisoners?
No, I think all the fundraising that I saw would be prisoner or prisoner support group related.
So what intelligence did you obtain that was of relevance to the fight against Irish Republican terrorism?
Well, it's not a question of direct intelligence. It will go into the sort of the Red Action movement for me, given their activity of their members, as we've already mentioned. It was, and at that stage where we'd had the peace process had broken down, there was uncertainty around it, and there was certainly in the wider field, PIRA members in Northern Ireland. Some of them weren't accepting the peace process. That was common knowledge, and there was an attempt to recruit them, as I learned secondhand, to the dissident Republican side of things. But at that time in the mid-90s, nobody really knew what those defections were and how that would filter down onto the mainland. My specific role in that respect would be to merely be in the orbit where, in an organisation like Red Action, to pick up any indicators that there were people, bearing in mind they had members from both factions of not just PIRA but also INLA in their membership ranks who'd done time there. I just needed to be in that orbit to pick up any intelligence which would indicate whether there were defections, there was some sort of possibility of those things being picked up and used on the mainland as they had done previously.
You've talked about possibilities. Did you actually obtain any such intelligence?
In hindsight, all I could at that time, I mean, it's difficult to evaluate that intelligence. That was my role purely. Keep an eye on these people, and more or less, and also the sort of peripheral members. So we talk about Republican Forum, which was obviously dissident support, but a lot of the people there were generally sort of mainstream politicos, but they did attract other persons on the fringes of that who may become interested in developing it on a much more direct stance. But nobody knew at that stage exactly what it was. The security services were unsighted on all of that. And I think really the state, certainly Special Branch, were wrong-footed when that device went off at Canary Wharf, and suddenly all bets were on. Sorry.
In terms of a yes/no answer to the question, did you actually obtain any intelligence which went to the question defections within the groups? Is the answer no?
No.
Does it come to this, that the high point of the intelligence that you gathered was the identity of people who sympathised with the proposition that the peace process was a bad idea and supported the continuation of the armed struggle?
Well, I was involved in that. You naturally gravitate towards those people. I can't just, or I wasn't in a position just to become a member of Red Action and expect to be trusted on that particular thing. I had to move in a wider spectrum of all that Irish Republican support groups that were around at that time. That was all it was. And you say that's the high point, well, that was the position I needed to be.
And being, as you say, in a position where you might have come across intelligence.
Absolutely.
Can we take that document down now, please? And can we go to tab C75, 245996? Different territory now. The first public meeting of the Socialist Labour Party, 21st of February 1996. If we expand the text, I'll give you a moment to familiarise yourself with the document. I'm interested in paragraphs 1 and 2.
Okay.
Were you at this meeting?
Yes, I was.
You refer about halfway down the first paragraph to the speakers, being Bob Crow of the RMT, Brenda Nixon, the unsuccessful SLP candidate in the recent Hemsworth by-election, and Imran Khan, brackets, solicitor for the family of Stephen Lawrence, close brackets. Why did you refer to Imran Khan as a solicitor for the family of Stephen Lawrence?
Because that's either he introduced himself or I think these were speakers on the stage and that's what he would have been introduced as.
Did you know Mr. Khan to be the solicitor for the family of Stephen Lawrence?
Never heard of him to that point.
Even in connection with the long-running, by then long-running, Stephen Lawrence campaign?
No, I mean, I think I may have heard him on the news or something like that, but that would have been all. But it didn't ring any particular bells to me, no.
He had a very prominent role.
Not in my world,
in the campaign.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
Are you sure this is not a reflection of the importance of that role to the Metropolitan Police Service?
Absolutely not, no. I mean, that campaign was mentioned, in the sense, because it was such a high-profile thing, yes. And his name might have been mentioned, but it meant nothing to me. I mean, I had no interest in that particular campaign.
Could we have the second paragraph, please?
Okay.
So first of all, the position on the political spectrum of the Socialist Labour Party, I'm taking that description to mean that it is seeking to occupy the territory recently vacated by old Labour.
Yeah.
Very recently vacated following the abandonment of Clause 4.
And whatever it was against, and it was certainly a flip side to New Labour of the Tony Blair.
Put another way, the same political territory as the official opposition in Parliament and on and off the ruling party during the 1960s and the 1970s.
Yeah, I think that's what they wanted, to return to that sort of environment, yeah.
Was it thought that that aspiration was subversive?
No idea. I went along to this meeting, and it was, you know, it was just another left-wing group. I don't even know why I went there. I imagine it was Steve Headley knew Bob Crow, and we went along. But I didn't really give it an awful lot of thought into the ins and outs of it. It was certainly nothing that was of interest to me personally. And again, I reported on this because I was there, and what they did with it subsequently as intelligence, I've no idea.
No threat to public order?
At that particular meeting?
The Socialist Labour Party?
Oh, their manifesto? Well, no, of course not. They're the best thing in the world. That was the whole point of that meeting, was to gather as much support as they could from as many people as they could.
I think you said at some point in an answer that you essentially reported this because you were there.
That's right.
And you went there because you were with
Headley and Metcalfe. Yeah.
Did either you or any of your managers stop to consider for a moment that you are reporting on the entirely legitimate political activities of a political party that was simply a left-wing party?
No.
The second part of that paragraph, Imran Khan expounded the virtues of the SLP's anti-racism policy, likening its enthusiasm to that of the Anti-Racist Alliance and the Anti-Nazi League, pleasing those members of the SWP who were in the audience. Khan stated that the success of direct action taken by such organisations, citing the campaign against the BNP headquarters in Welling as an example, should act as a model for the SLP in its intention to provide a presence at all parliamentary and extra-parliamentary activities. The BNP headquarters in Welling was closed down as a result of a very long-running campaign, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Everything that you're reporting Mr. Khan saying here as a speaker at this SLP event is entirely legitimate political expression, isn't it?
Yes, I was reporting what he said, and that's what he said.
On a very important social issue.
Well, clearly it was important to him, yeah.
Was anti-racism important to you?
What, to me personally, or the organisation?
To you personally?
Well, of course it is, yeah. But, you know, there were other people in the organisation, probably in the SDS, who were best, you know, I didn't know anything really much about the Anti-Nazi League other than what was in what other officers had obviously reported to me. That wasn't my area of reporting.
Why did you say important to him then, in answer to my question about it being a pressing social issue?
Well, because it clearly was important to him.
Could we take that down now, please? Could we have tab 83, 246068? This is a report on an individual, and once you've absorbed the normal descriptors, if we can go to the 2 paragraphs of text at the bottom. And it runs slightly over leaf as well. First matter that I'm interested in, I want to ask you about, is the reporting on the construction of homemade smoke bombs. Can you help us with what the source of your intelligence was here?
I don't know. Is there a name for this person? I don't remember this report.
If we haven't got one to hand, we will get one and I can come back to this report. We'll do that. Can we take that down now, please? And can we go to tab C87? 246090. This is now moving on to the Ibrahim Say campaign. This is 23rd of March 1996, and it's about a protest, a picket, followed by a march to Ilford Police Station, 23rd of March 1996. At this stage, it's planning. The report is about a meeting on the 20th of March to plan. I'll let you have a look. I think, first of all, it would be worthwhile you looking in detail at the first paragraph.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So this is about a death in police custody in which CS Gas was involved.
Oh, okay.
Were you at the meeting?
I can't remember, but certainly, I honestly can't remember if I was at that meeting, but there was a lot of detail there. Now, Metcalfe would have been, it could have been that I just written on the back of what he'd reported to me, but I can't remember whether I was actually at the meeting or not.
Did you ever meet any of Mr. Say's family?
No, not knowingly.
Could we have a look at the next paragraph, please? Let you read that.
Okay.
You are here reporting on a Black Justice campaign at its very inception, aren't you?
Yes, it looks like it, yeah.
And you are reporting the involvement and positions of various left-wing and campaigning groups.
Yes.
And would this be regarded as an anti-police campaign?
I don't know.
A campaign
It was a police that involved police officers, so yes, I mean, I can see where that question go into, but yes, it would be anti-police in as much there were police, it was a police offence that was being protested against there, so in a generic sense it would have been, yeah.
Exactly what did you understand you were expected to do, reporting on the inception of a Black Justice campaign?
What was I expected to do? What, from SDS point of view?
Yes. What was the intelligence requirement?
Just report on what you hear, and that's what I did. Again, this would have been in conversation with Metcalfe. There's a lot of detail here, and he used to, relay all of this stuff that he was up to, or speaking to in me in the pub or whatever, and tell me about it. But that's all it was. It was just hoovering up the information that I was given and putting it into a report such as that.
If we go back up to the first paragraph, please.
Yeah.
And towards the end of that, in the last sentence, It is apparent that the NMP have the ear of the victim's family and intend the above event, behind which it is putting all its resources, to exploit the use of CS gas to the full, in the knowledge that maximum media attention is guaranteed. Could you help us with why you are using the word exploit?
I read this. The CS gas that was used in the original offence, was it, by the police? Or I can't remember what the context of the use of CS gas was.
Mr. Say dies in police custody whilst under restraint. I'm afraid you have to give the evidence and I have to ask the questions.
Yeah.
You have reported that there was use of CS gas.
Right, okay. Well, that's I would have heard that, but I can't remember what the context of that was. I'm assuming it was used by the police, and as a result of that, Mr. Say died in police custody. I'm assuming that's what happened. I can't remember.
And so why are you saying exploiting the use of CS gas to the full?
Because it was an issue that's obviously, it's a bit like a shooting thing. It immediately grabs public attention and public sympathy. That's all that was.
So are you suggesting that this is being used to maximise a political opportunity?
Well, I wouldn't say political opportunity. It's publicity, certainly.
Would you accept the sincerity of the NMP's desire to prevent deaths in custody?
Of course, yeah.
And that was an entirely legitimate concern?
Yes, I wouldn't contest that at all, no.
But was it in fact your view at the time that they were simply seeking to exploit Mr. Say's deaths for their own purposes?
It wasn't my view. That would have been an opinion probably not quite so pointed as that, but in terms of Metcalfe, because there was always it sounds really churlish, but there's a competitive instinct about who was which group was better equipped to represent families, in this case, in death in police custody. So there was an edge of that. But as I said earlier, Metcalfe is prone, or was prone to exaggeration, so I'd use that as a caveat. But yes, exploit, which is basically what it boiled down to.
Also consistent with evidence you've given earlier today, that it was essentially the SDS and Special Branch view that these campaigns were exploited.
Yes.
Can we go back to the second paragraph, please? The middle of the paragraph. Following the inquiries Graham Smith made of Bernberg solicitors and Debbie Coles made of Inquest, the general feeling at the CRC is that the campaign will be a difficult one to coordinate. How do you know what inquiries Dr. Smith made of Bernberg's?
I don't know the specifics of all of that, but this would have been in probably like a wash-up Colin Road Centre meeting where the usual business was that Metcalfe would stand up and he'd tell the membership what they've been doing and the ins and outs of it. So it was on the back of that, really. I can't put it into any specific context.
Can we take it from what we know of Dr. Graham Smith's activities that his purpose in contacting a highly regarded firm of human rights solicitors would have been to explore legal avenues of redress?
Well, very possibly, yes. That would be his MO, yeah.
And Debbie Coles of Inquest being a group that supports bereaved at inquests, that thought he's being given to the inevitable inquest?
I think so. I think she was a personal friend of Metcalfe's, so he had a better insight into that. It wasn't something I was particularly well sighted on.
And that being an important part of the coronial response to the death, entirely legitimate.
Well, it would appear so, yes. I was just reporting what I'd heard.
Why was the general feeling that the campaign would be difficult to coordinate?
Well, again, as I said earlier, I think, it was not within the sort of obvious catchment area of the CRC. And so Metcalfe didn't have the influence that he would have liked to have done. That was my interpretation of it. So, yes, from his point of view, the CRC wouldn't have got a look in, really.
What was your view of inquest?
I didn't really have a view of them. I'd never heard of them until I'd been out in the... And I think she addressed a meeting, Debbie Coles addressed a meeting explaining what she did to a Colin Roach Centre meeting, but I can't remember all of that. I'd never heard of them prior to that.
Can we look at the last sentence now? Notwithstanding this, the NMP is putting every effort into attracting a large number of people to the above event, even suggesting that the recent unrelated assault on the 3 police officers in Forest Gate has heightened tension in the area, in the belief that such a ploy might attract the unpredictable presence of black youth onto the streets this weekend. What was the basis for describing NMP's actions in the way that you do there?
I think I can't remember making this comment, but in the context of the rest of that report, again, we spoke earlier about exploiting opportunities. Well, I can't remember this assault on 3 police officers, but yes, certainly that had a heightening of tensions, and of course it would make the NMP's profile as the guardians of the local community that much sharper, in my opinion.
So, I'm right to interpret this as you're reporting the NMP as stoking the temperature?
Not at all, no. I don't think it was stoking.
Heightened tension.
Yeah, heightened tension. That's different from stoking the political tension in the area.
You're portraying NMP as undertaking deliberate actions to heighten tension in the area.
No, it said it had the result of heightening tensions in the area. But of course, that was all within their remit anyway, not to stoke up tensions. But if there were issues there which they could garner support from, then of course they were going to do that. I wouldn't say that they were deliberately stoking up tensions in the area with their actions at all.
Well, you describe it as a ploy which might attract the unpredictable presence of black youth to the streets this weekend.
Yeah, that was my opinion.
Is the reality that the NMP wanted a properly stewarded and orderly demonstration?
Undoubtedly, I think most of the ones that I'd sort of these groups have been aware of always want an orderly demonstration, yeah.
And with the phrase unpredictable presence of black youth, are we back into the realms of stereotyping young black people?
Well, I think as this particular offence, a bit like the Brian Douglas issue, it was made a racial issue because of the colour of the victim and the fact of white police officers involved in it.
But they're being described here as unpredictable.
But yeah, their motivations and their actions potentially unpredictable. Yes, I stand by that.
Can we take that document down now, please, and have up from tab B 90 747 764. This is the report on the march itself. It's reported as having been advertised, tense and hostile, but without disorder. 300 to 350 people attended. It took place on the afternoon of Saturday, the 23rd of March. Were you present on that march?
I can't remember. I honestly can't remember if I was or not.
Can you not help us at all with events on the day?
Can I just have a read through
Yes,
this?
if it will help jog your memory, please do. If we could expand the text for the witness, please.
Yeah, I mean, it's written as if I was there. So, I'm not trying to say I wasn't, but I can't remember it. So it looks like I probably was there with the amount of detail that's gone into that report.
Okay, well, I'll tailor my questions to the lack of recollection of the actual events. Why did you report the race of those attending?
Because that's what they were. I just did.
What's the significance of that?
No significance.
The fourth paragraph suggests that this event was in fact well stewarded. Was that your experience of the NMP?
Well, as far as I remember, yeah, there was no violence, so that would suggest that it was well stewarded. I accept that, yeah.
If we go over the page to page 2, paragraph 3. If you just familiarise yourself with that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It appears the picture you're portraying is that Mr. Say's family were perfectly capable of standing up for themselves to attempts by left-wing groups to influence them.
Yes, yeah, I think that's fair to say.
If we take that down now, please, and have tab C132 246 694. We're now moving from March 96 to October 96, 6 months after the death of Mr. Say. And this is a prospective report on an event being planned for the 16th of October. It's a picket. And if we look at the text, please. Give you a moment to read that.
Okay.
You use the phrase support the demo received from the local black community when Say died in March will have lost much of its impetus and venom over the intervening months. Venom means extreme malice or bitterness.
Yeah,
Why did you choose that word in relation to the local black community?
Well, because I think it was the venom. I don't know why I used that word, but it was the feeling, the impetus. It had lost its sort of impetus, whether that's the passage of time, as I've said there, or whatever. It didn't have the same sense of urgency. That was what was perceived at the time as it had done previously.
Did your use of the word venom reflect the fact that you regarded the local black community as venomous?
No, not at all. And I'll say before, this is intelligence based on my reporting. That's not something, I didn't write this report myself.
But based upon your written report?
Yes, yes, but venom, that isn't as you described it there.
Last sentence, it is anticipated that the picket will be small in number but loud and excited. This is a picket to remember a man who had died in police custody 6 months earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you choose the word excited?
I don't remember. But it'd be vocal. I mean, loud. Of course, it's vocal. It's a picket. But obviously, anticipated they'd be shouting and making themselves known. That's the whole point of it, not just sit there silent vigil.
Did you regard the local black community as excitable?
Me? No. Not specifically, no. I don't know why that word's in there.
Was there a view within the SDS that when it came to dealing with black justice campaigns, you were dealing with people who were excitable and venomous?
No. I think, as has been said earlier in that earlier report, the main problem for these family-type groups were being, not infiltrated is the wrong word, but they were sort of attracting the attention of the mainstream left-wing groups that was resented. So, no, that's not how I would have described it.
Did you become aware of the inquest verdict?
No, I still don't know what it was.
The inquiry's understanding is that the verdict returned was one of unlawful killing.
Okay.
Can we take that down, please, and have up C192 721 323? Page 6, please. This appears to have come from I'm afraid, a corrupted file, but it appears to be a report dated the 22nd of March 1996, which says, listed hereunder are the names of the current members of the steering committee of the Anti-Nazi League, which meets infrequently and usually in the House of Commons. And then it lists a number of names. Is this your reporting?
I don't recognise it because I had no insight into the Anti-Nazi League.
Two of the names on the list are members of Parliament, Bernie Grant and Peter Hain. They are recorded as MP, and it says House of Commons instead of the file references and addresses of the other people mentioned. Did you understand there to be a convention in the way that one reported on members of Parliament?
A convention in how it was worded, or the fact that they were being... No, I think I haven't seen this report before. I don't know where this comes from. But in terms of, yes, if there was a member of Parliament, a Labour MP or something, at a meeting, you could report on them, and say that they were there, and that would be it. What happened to that report later on, I've no idea. I had no control over that. But just because that person happened to be a member of Parliament wouldn't mean that you would leave them out of a report saying that you'd seen them at an event. No.
Can we take that document down now? Can we have up from tab B27 728 967? This is the SDS annual report for the financial year 1995-1996. Could we go to page 7, please? At the bottom of the page, it says anarchism, community-based pressure groups and Republican sympathisers. That is referring to your deployment, isn't it?
I've never seen this document before. I'm just
okay, well, in that
through.
case, I'll give you a moment to read it carefully. If you could read the rest of the page carefully, please.
Right. Okay.
And it goes over the page. It does appear to be a reference to your deployment, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
How accurate is it in reflecting what you were doing?
It's a very general, broad-based thing. And as you know, I say I haven't seen this report before, but I presume this was made by the office management. But I don't know where this is disseminated to, probably to higher ranks within the in special branch. But they're going to always paint a much more flowery and involved picture because they're impressing their superiors. So, yes, I mean, in general terms, I can recognise parts of my deployment strategy there, but yeah, it's very wide-brushed and non-specific.
If we have a look at the bottom third of the next paragraph, so that we've got the words, the group to which the SDS officer is affiliated has, in consequence of the above, been involved in an organisational or stewarding capacity in most of the justice campaigns seen over the past year. Involvement in such issues, for example, the Brian Douglas campaign at an organisational level, inevitably produces high-grade intelligence of the aims and tactics of generally volatile and outraged groups.
Well, so I've never seen that before, and it's a very flattering assessment of my capabilities. The truth of it is yes, I was involved in the Brian Douglas campaign to the extent that we discussed earlier. The rest of it is, I don't recognise that at all, no.
So the statement involved in an organisational or stewarding capacity in most of the justice campaigns seen over the past year, I'm understanding you to be saying, is either an exaggeration or a fabrication.
I wouldn't say it was a fabrication. I think, yes, certainly the Brian Douglas campaign and also the fact that I was in the stewards there, but I think to extrapolate that into the activist involvement throughout the year is a bit much, so I don't think that's...
Have they taken your involvement in the Brian Douglas campaign and the Ibrahim Say campaign and inflated it to suggest that you were in most of the justice campaigns seen over the past year?
That's how I read it, yes.
Involvement in such issues, for example, the Brian Douglas campaign, at an organisational level, inevitably produces high-grade intelligence of the aims and tactics of generally volatile and outraged groups. Can we take it then that that's based on an assessment of those supporting the Brian Douglas campaign and the Ibrahim Say campaign?
Well, I think you'd have to ask the author of that. As we discussed before with the Brian Douglas campaign, my assessments were based on that report and that report alone. The rest of it is very sort of...
This resonates, doesn't it, with use of words such as excited and venomous?
Well, exactly, yeah. It's no, it's not. I don't. It's not the language I didn't write it. And I don't recognise that sort of language either. So no, I can't really comment on what was going through the author's mind.
Does this language, in truth, represent the institutional view of black justice campaigns?
You're asking for my opinion on that?
I'm asking for your knowledge from having been there.
Well, I don't know how management and those people who weren't involved directly in the SDS itself, how they make their decisions based on whatever views they have for, of these organisations based on their own knowledge or on the reports that we send up. I don't know what the views are on that, so I can't really answer that question now.
Just one moment. We've got the names now for the people involved in the smoke bomb report. I'm going to have those passed up to you so we can go back to that. If we can take this document down, please, and have up C83 246068.
Okay, I don't recognise the first name there. Obviously, I know who the second name is. Sorry.
And if my learned friends can be shown as well, please. If we could have expanded the 2 paragraphs at the bottom and return to the reference to homemade smoke bombs. And perhaps if we zoom out and just look at the description in case that helps you with the identity of the person. Female, IC1, 5'5", slim with blonde dyed dreadlocks, who wore crusty type clothing and combat fatigues, etc. Smoke bombs. Can you help us with the source of your information for this?
On that particular one, it would have been the second name on that piece of paper you just shown me.
And are we talking of smoke bombs of the kind that are intended to generate smoke?
That was my understanding of it, yes.
Were you in possession of information which would help us to understand whether or not these devices were hazardous in any ways, or would we need an expert for that?
Well, you'd need an expert for that. And again, this is second-hand information from the second person on that. This was an area that it was an incidental piece of information, which obviously, given the context, thought it might be relevant. This person wasn't involved in any of the areas that I was, so it was...
No suggestion that these devices are intended to harm anybody?
No, it was completely at face value. There was nothing like that implied to me anyway.
And if we could go over the page... we will see towards the end of the second paragraph that it appears that she was seeking to encourage her then partner to enrol as a security officer at Newbury in order to obtain information. Do you know whether or not that information would have been shared with the security company?
I have no idea at all. Like I say, that was a completely different field from what I put it in there because I picked it up. What became of it and if that was developed in any way, I have absolutely no idea.
Take that down now, please, and go back to the annual report. Tab B27, 728967. Bottom of page 8, please, running over to the top of page 9. So this is picking up where we left off, and you'll see now why I digress for a moment. In a recent development, the SDS officer has uncovered a squatter anarchist in Hackney who is busily engaged making homemade smoke bombs for use in the ongoing Newbury bypass. The matter is under active investigation. That's a reference to the intelligence we've just been looking at, isn't it?
Understood, yeah, well, it appears to be, yes.
And if we go over to the next page, please. And the top paragraph on that page. After only 1 year of this facet of the SDS operation, it is quite apparent that there is a rich seam of intelligence relevant to public order, criminal and terrorist matters to be exploited. We've been through your reporting in the first year of your operation. Rich seam of intelligence on terrorist matters. That is not a fair description of your first year's deployment, is it?
I would have to agree with you there, yes.
Rich seam of intelligence relevant to criminal activities, likewise.
No.
And although there is some reporting on public order matters, it's a bit of a stretch to describe the people you were infiltrating in that year as providing a rich seam of public order intelligence, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you there. It is a bit of a stretch.
Can we go to page 12, please? There is a summary of your deployment there, and the penultimate paragraph says, in addition, he had cultivated contacts with PIRA supporters in London. Can you help me with what is meant by PIRA supporters? We've been through your intelligence. The reality, however it's described by your managers, is people who sympathised with the use of terrorist violence in order to secure a united Ireland is the high point of it.
Yes, there were support groups, certainly, but I think at that stage I'd made contact with Red Action, so I would say that they were not, they had obviously supported them in the past, so they weren't just casual, or certainly the attitude of that organisation wasn't like that of, say, the prisoners' campaigns, etc.
Can we take that document down now, please, and go to tab C98, 246172. This is a report, 16th of April 1996, about a loyalist march through central London, stewarded by Combat 18, planned for Saturday the 27th of April. It is understood that 3 pipe bands from Ireland will take part, and then there is intelligence about a redirection point, about AFA's plan to mobilise, and then it describes in paragraph 3 that it is accepted that a full-scale attack on the march will not be possible. They will have to be content with picking off isolated targets as and when they present themselves. Can you help us, first of all, with how you obtained this intelligence?
It would have been from AFA. I attended, I'm trying to get the dates organised, but I attended an AFA meeting. It was a big meeting out in Southall, I think it was. A lot of different contacts from around London and elsewhere, and it was discussed there that this was the likely outlook on that particular day. But then again, with that sort of meeting, you're chatting to other contacts as well, and so it's an amalgamation of that. But that was essentially how the day was going to pan out.
The final sentence of paragraph 3, is that your opinion, or was that something that people were actually saying they were going to do?
And that's what they'll do. If in this case, Combat 18, who were the stewards type of group, if, as is consistent with their attitude all the time, you stop fascism wherever it pops up. And if someone is a fascist, there's an opportunity to beat them into the ground, then that's what will be done in any opportunity, and try not to get arrested in the process. That was normal policy.
Were you at this demonstration?
Yes.
Can you help us with whether or not there was any disorder?
Yes, there was.
Can you tell us, in your own words, what happened?
Well, on a particular occasion, I don't think they could get near the march. There were very few, as I remember, Combat 18 members around on the street, because the inference being that they were expected to be opposed quite robustly. Information was then received by, I don't know who, that a group of them had gone into a pub. I can't remember exactly where it was, but it was in central London, just off the route of the march itself. Gone and barricaded themselves into a pub. They'd been discovered, and the pub was attacked.
Who was the pub attacked by?
Well, it was AFA members trying to get into where they believed Combat 18 and some members of the bands were drinking.
Including you?
I was in the area. I didn't actually attack the pub, no, but I did see it.
Was Mr. Metcalfe involved?
Didn't see Metcalfe at all that day, which was predictable.
Mr. Headley?
I don't know if he was there or not. He certainly wasn't involved in that particular aspect.
What happened?
I remember the front window of the pub went in. There was a hail of beer bottles, pint pots flying out of the place. I think some members managed to get in to the pub itself, but were beaten back by the people inside. And eventually, when the police did arrive, there were some fairly nasty injuries to both sides, as I remember.
And I just want to be unequivocal about this. Violence initiated on this occasion by the far left.
As I recall it, yes, because that's where they believed that the Combat 18 people were.
Can we take that document down now? Tab C103, 246252. This is a 14th of May 1996 report on a planned 19th of June 96 public meeting. It is a public meeting in support of Malcolm Kennedy. It says that up to 100 people may come. Disorder is unlikely. Could we look at the text, please? I'll give you a moment to familiarise yourself with that again.
Okay, yeah.
Can you help us with, in outline, what the Malcolm Kennedy campaign was about?
Well, as I understood it, I mean, Malcolm Kennedy himself, I think he did come to a meeting to address the meeting. It was the first time I'd ever heard of this particular case. But he was apparently convicted, well, as I've said there, convicted of murdering his cellmate in Hammersmith police station and claiming that it wasn't him. That was essentially the event. I don't know what date of that particular thing happened.
Does this ring any bells? Malcolm Kennedy was in a police cell with Patrick Quinn. Mr. Quinn was murdered. The issue was who murdered Mr. Quinn. Was it Malcolm Kennedy? Or was
yes,
it,
I remember the background to that.
Or was it the police officer?
Exactly, yeah.
So would this meet the test for an anti-police campaign?
In broad terms, yes. It was an action against the police because of the police, etc., etc. So, yes, so you want to group it into a general intelligence group, yes. But this was a particular an event that was quite, not unique, but it was important for the Colin Roach Centre because obviously there was I understood there was a personal connection in that, I don't know if it was Smith, but certainly Metcalfe knew Malcolm Kennedy and spoke to him regularly. So, and I think they'd published a book on this as well. So it was quite a well-known story. I have to say, until I got involved with the Colin Roach Centre, I'd never actually heard of it.
What interest did you take in this campaign?
Me personally, well, I reported on it because it was an event that was being organised by the Colin Roach Centre. I wasn't involved in the campaign in as much as organising anything on behalf of it. It was something that the centre was involved in, and I reported on that. That's it.
Did there come a time when Mr. Kennedy was on bail?
I don't know.
Did you give Mr. Kennedy lifts?
Not that I can remember, no.
Did you talk to him about his case?
No, not I can't remember.
Are you sure?
Well, I'm as sure as I can be, but I didn't have. I would have met him probably at a meeting when he came to address that meeting, but I can't remember beyond that. No.
Did you report on Mr. Kennedy's case?
In as much that this is the campaign around it, yeah, because it featured quite heavily, and it was a common thing that was raised in the Colin Roach Centre meetings.
Do you know what was done with your reporting on the Malcolm Kennedy campaign?
Absolutely no idea at all, no.
And any reporting on Mr. Kennedy himself?
No.
The inquiry has heard evidence to the effect that it was thought that you recall that you had given him lifts and spoke to him about his case. Do you have any reason to disbelieve that evidence?
Well, I was one of the, if not only the person there who had a vehicle. It's possible I gave him a lift home or whatever, but I had no reason to talk to him about his case.
Could we take that down now and have tab C106 246 264? This is a report dated the 14th of May 1996. It's about the East London anti-fascist action planning. Could you have a look at paragraph 1 with a particular focus on, after you've read that, the source comment?
Okay. Okay, yeah.
Were you at that meeting?
Yes, I would have been, yeah.
Was Mr. Headley?
I can't remember if he was there. As I was the sort of the delegate who went to East London AFA meetings, I can't remember if he was there or not.
Was Mr. Metcalfe?
No, Metcalfe wouldn't have gone there.
Can you help us in terms of plans for actions? What was discussed?
Well, similar to, as I've said here, they'd get information about BNP activists or supporters in the particular area. In this case, it was East London. Find out where they were, what their movements were, and which would come down to intelligence gathering in that respect. And if possible, attack them if they were still known to be active members of the BNP or whoever it was. C18.
It's worded to suggest it's intelligence gathering first, and then there's a pregnant silence as to what will happen next. Was there any discussion as to what would happen next?
Well, I don't remember that, but again, this is aspirational at this stage. They had they were lacking members to do this, but this is what they did. But it stands by the AFA code of conduct. Find out who they are and beat them into the ground. Simply as that. Nothing.
What actually happened after the meeting?
After that particular meeting?
Yeah. Did they to pick up your last answer, did they pick anybody up and beat them into the ground?
Not that I can remember. No, they were short of that. It was a small group, and I moved. I went across to North London, AFA at the time. But that was what. Again, this is all important stuff because for them it is to keep the members, such as they were, active and involved, and this was a part and parcel of that.
I'm getting the feeling of all talk and no action. Is that what it was?
Well, possibly so in this case, yes. But and not to give them their credit, they were conscious of the need to keep on top of the background of confronting fascists in East London in this case, even though they were quite thin on the ground, or visibly so anyway.
Can we take that down and have up C127246 we're back to reporting on Dr. Smith. This is now the 17th of September 1996. If we could expand the text, I'll give you a moment to read it.
Yep, okay.
All of this activity you're reporting entirely lawful?
As far as I was concerned, it was, yes. It was useful intelligence, and I passed it on as such.
And the defendant's information service would fit the definition of an anti-police activity?
Again, we're talking in general terms here, but it was, yeah, most of the work that was being done from my point of view was complaints against the police.
The penultimate line seeks to expose, inverted commas, corrupt police officers. Why inverted commas?
Not my report, I didn't write it.
By this stage, corruption at Stoke Newington Police Station was well known, wasn't it?
Well, apparently so. I mean, I think in general, as I said earlier, there were issues at Stoke Newington Police Station, which was known throughout the police service. The details of it I wasn't aware of until I got involved with the Colin Roach Centre.
When it came to actions against the police, was there a sense that the courts were getting it wrong?
What, in my opinion, or the SDS opinion?
Well, let's start with your opinion.
Well, not at all. It's nothing to do with me.
Within the SDS?
Again, nothing to do with it. It's something you can't influence. You can report on it. What the courts do is down to them, isn't it?
You can have an opinion, though.
I could have an opinion, yes, but I'm a police officer.
And what was your opinion?
Because the police can do no wrong in that sense, but that's an opinion I would, frivolous, but that's what I wouldn't share that with anybody.
Well, maybe not frivolous. The view the police can do no wrong would explain the use of inverted commas. Was there a view that these campaigns were leading to police officers being traduced?
Well, in this case, it would certainly, you'd have to ask the author of this particular report. But I think, it's almost, you're in a polarised position as a police officer where everyone hates you, that's accepted. So, yes, there is a them and us general attitude, and I think that just reflects that, really. I wasn't in a position we weren't going into it in such detail that we'd know what the ins and outs of individual cases were. That was just a general attitude.
Given his track record, it must be anticipated that such an organisation would prove to be highly successful.
Yeah.
Factually correct.
Yeah.
And a good thing.
Yeah, clearly. He was good at what he did. No two ways about that, yeah.
Not good at what he did, but exposing corrupt police officers is a good thing.
Okay, yeah, of
Do you
course.
agree?
If corruption exists, yes, of course it is. No one's condoning corruption, no.
But I sense in your answer some doubts about whether there really had been.
Well, I think it's a very wide brush, isn't it? You to besmirch, you're not just single police officers, it's the police in general, which covers a lot of very innocent, hard-working police officers. Undoubtedly, there were corrupt officers. We know that.
Why was Dr. Smith reported on long after he'd left the HDCA?
He, as I've said previously his name gets mentioned, and this has all come from Metcalfe. It's worthy of reporting who he was.
Was the fact he had an RF file a factor?
Possibly, yeah.
As best you can recall, is there any missing reporting about Dr. Smith?
From myself?
Yes.
No. I mean, this is all it's just hearsay, isn't it, from Metcalfe? But no, I mean, these are just tidbits I picked up as and when he deemed it necessary to chat, usually in a pub or something like that.
So may I invite you to rise for the day?
Yes, indeed. And we will resume at 10 o'clock tomorrow.